Hello mga katropang guro, and welcome to this educational video. In this video, I'm going to discuss with you how to write a research title for qualitative research and quantitative research. We would be focusing on the things to consider in writing a research title. So there are four things that I really would like you to know. First, reflect the focus of your study. And then, write the title based on your research design. So whether you're going to choose quantitative or qualitative research. So therefore, the title should be based on the research design that you have chosen. And then, choose words appropriate to your research design. And finally, as much as possible, use 12 to 15 words only. So these are the focus of the research titles that you would see later on that I would be showing with you. So let's start with the four qualitative research design: the case study, phenomenology, ethnography, and grounded theory. So a case study is a detailed study of a specific subject, such as person, group, place, organization, or phenomenon. It actually investigates contemporary phenomenon, especially when the boundary between the phenomenon and context is not clear. So we are going to make use of case study. So let's take a look at some of the titles suited for case study research. So these are some of the titles of case study research. First, mental health programs towards the development of a framework on school management and practices. And the second one, role of low-cost strategy in achieving companies' survival and growth, a case study. So as you can see, in case study research, the title alone can include the words case study. So that will tell you that this particular research is case study. As for the first example, you would see there towards the development of a framework. If you would see those words in a particular research, then immediately you should be able to identify that that particular research is a case study research. In my previous educational video, I already discussed with you phenomenological research. But allow me to present to you two titles so that at least you would be able to identify immediately if a particular research is phenomenological in nature. So here are the two examples of phenomenological research. First, lived experiences of struggling readers in senior high school. And the next one, the experiences of biology teachers teaching physics. As you can see, the two titles have the word experiences because they are actually talking about the experiences of the informants or the participants. So therefore, when you see the word experiences or lived experiences, then the research is phenomenological. Next qualitative research design is, of course, ethnographic research. When you use this design, then as a researcher, you have to live with and lives like your informants or participants, usually for a year or more. And then this design, this research design is focused on the question, what is the culture of a group of people? So here are some of the examples of ethnographic research titles. First, the alternative learning school curriculum as described by ATAS. And the process and outcomes of guidance program for bullied students and ethnographic research. The last qualitative research is, of course, the grounded theory research. There are two types of grounded theory: classic grounded theory and hybrid grounded theory. But I would be discussing that in my next educational video. As of the moment, let's just focus on the titles suited for grounded theory. Usually, in grounded theory research, we're using Durand as the first word of the research title. But remember always that since grounded theory is theory building research, then towards the end, there is a possibility that your title will be changed depending on the theory that you would be able to identify or the theory that you would be able to build. So grounded theory is actually a systematic inductive methods for conducting qualitative research aimed toward theory development, discovering or constructing theory from the data that you have gathered from your informants through interview, systematically obtained and analyzed using comparative analysis or constant comparison method. In all the qualitative research, this is my favorite because I did this as, of course, my dissertation at De La Salle University. So there are two types again. So there are two types of grounded theory, the classic grounded theory and the hybrid grounded theory. So let's take a look at the two titles for grounded theory. First, Manifesting Compassion, a classic grounded theory of being a Salesian educator. So this is my dissertation. And the next one, Initializing Leadership, a grounded theory of becoming a school supervisor. So remember always that at the end of your grounded theory research, there is a possibility that you would be changing your research title because of the theory that you would be able to build from the data that you have gathered. So let's proceed now to the titles for quantitative research. So remember always that there are two types of quantitative research, the non-experimental and experimental research. For non-experimental research, we would be focusing on descriptive, comparative, correlational, and causal-comparative. And then I'll be giving you also examples of experimental research. So again, as I have mentioned a while ago, there are four things that should be considered in writing a research title. First, reflect the focus of your study, and then write the title based on your research design, whether it's quantitative or qualitative, and then choose words appropriate to your research design, and then as much as possible, use 12 to 15 words only. Again, 12 to 15 words only. So let's start with descriptive research. Descriptive research is also known as survey research. Your aim in this research or as a researcher is to characterize the phenomena and identify the association among the identified variables. So let's take a look at some of the research titles for descriptive research. First, the mastery level of grade 6 students in fractions. So we are just talking here about the mastery level of grade 6 students. So therefore, we really just need to get the mean percentage score. Then the next bullet, the preferred learning styles of grade 6 students in their English class. And finally, the predictive validity of post-diagnostic tests in the academic performance of grade 12 students. Let's proceed to experimental research. The experimental research answers the question, what if? So therefore, as a researcher, you have to manipulate independent variable and measure dependent variable. The independent variable is controlled or set by the researcher. And then the dependent variable is measured by the researcher. Let's take a look at the sample titles for experimental research. First, the effect of flipped classroom in teaching factoring for grade 8 students. Second one, model building in biology, its effects on students' critical thinking. And finally, the use of role-playing in teaching characterization for grade 6. So as you can see here, we have the independent variable, which is of course the teaching strategies, and the dependent variable is of course the scores of the students. So you are going to take a look at the effect of the teaching strategies that you're going to use to the scores or to the academic performance of your students. So remember always, there should be significant difference in the performance of the students after using the strategy. In the first research title, the effect of flipped classroom in teaching, factoring for grade 8 students, the independent variable is flipped classroom. And then, of course, the dependent variable would be the scores of the students after taking the test on factoring. So next is correlational research. This research seeks to investigate the extent to which one or more relationship of some type exists. There is no manipulation nor intervention that will happen compared to experimental research. So just administer the instrument necessary to gather the data that you need for your research. Your instrument should be validated by experts and should gather the data that you need for your research. So take note, the instrument should be validated by experts. So these are some of the titles for correlational research. First, the relationship of reading comprehension to the academic performance of grade 10 students. Next, the relationship between the levels of mathematics anxiety and their performance in mathematics. And finally, depression and anxiety levels of teachers in times of pandemic, its relationship to their performance. So as you can see, the cue here is the word relationship. When you see the word relationship, that means that research is correlational research. So the last type of quantitative research is causal-comparative research. Causal-comparative research attempts to identify a cause-effect relationship between two or more groups. It involves comparison in contrast to correlational research which looks at relationship. So there is no manipulation of variable. So let's take a look at some of the examples of causal comparative research. First, the difference in satisfaction of teaching and non-teaching personnel who received rector's formation. The next, finally, a causal comparative study on the effects of competency-based education in students' academic performance. So mga katropang guro, those are some of the titles for quantitative and qualitative research. Hopefully, this educational video helps you to identify the research design by simply taking a look at the research title. Thank you mga katropang guro and God bless.